So apparently Joe Rogan has the most popular podcast on Spotify, and he's repeatedly spread COVID misinformation and invited guests on to do the same.
From Walter Cronkite, basically, to this guy Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons. He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like I guess like dinosaur type of animals, roamed the earth when people did.
Worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news. And we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won. And this is. And Joe Rogan believes in dragons.
That's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News. But
we're checked by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
The human legal note?
I don't know. Hey, this is the most important part. This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. So she by saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest statement. Like you didn't listen to what I said.
Yeah.
You didn't listen to what the wildlife biologist, and that's only a part of what he said.
I can't believe
the other
Joy
part of what he
Behar
said was there was something before that where he was explaining encounters with giant reptiles. But that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, and they always bring on a token conservative woman, and they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre show.
Joe Rogan here. Did you see Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons, I guess, according to Joy Behar, he changed his X profile. Did you see this?
That. I did see that.
It now just simply says dragon believer. He had talked about dragons on the show. It's the thing of it is, you take anything out of context and you can make fun of it and mock it. And so, let's do that. It goes without saying. Joe Rogan, how many times more intelligent do you think Joe Rogan is than Joy Behar?
People want us divided, and they aren't just here in this country. They're foreign adversaries who are infiltrating our social media because it is prudent for us to stay that way. So when you see something that really pisses you off, you should triple check that one.
The bad information that's going out there.
Well, in defense, there are some really good news.
It's possible that Donald Trump did roam the earth when dinosaurs were here.
There are some really good news kind of influencer types, and I think it's great that they're getting information about global and current events in front of younger people who maybe don't tune into traditional media. But to Sarah's point, there has to be some fact-checking and actually verification of the things that are shared, because I spend a lot of time on Instagram Reels, and I'm served up things that I get outraged about, and then I realize, oh, that's not even true.
Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television.
Just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
I agree that Joe Rogan is a horror. I
mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation?
But arguably, like, the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house. Like, they're probably immobile.
Right. Because their mom's taking their kids to school, and that's,
It's a very strange show, but it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. The show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
and at the same time, it seemed like the most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
Yes.
And that's their audience.
Yes. Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. I had to read the thing about The View because I just thought it was funny.
What's
That's
the
the
View?
only reason why I read that about me.
Dragon lover.
Joy Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
Wait, what is this? I just
She
heard
said,
about
I checked it. And the lady goes, did you double check this? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Should be like,
you think they lived
Sasquatch,
alongside of
bitch.
people? Why doesn't The View have any trans women on it?
Great point. It has a lot of women that look trans, but none of them. It has a lot of second and third takes. After a drink, you'd go, huh? But it doesn't have a ton of,
The podcast king just dropped $100 million 0 cents legal bomb on daytime TV's most notorious talk show. And the entire media landscape is trembling. Imagine Joe Rogan sipping elk meat protein shake, scrolling through his phone, when suddenly his name pops up on The View, not for his record-breaking Spotify deal, not for his fascinating interviews with scientists or fighters, but because Joy Behar decided he believes in dragons, a casual character assassination that's about to cost ABC potentially 9 figures. This isn't just celebrity drama. It's the moment the old guard of media realize they can't say whatever they want about the new kings of content without consequences. And those consequences just got very, very expensive. What happens when daytime TV's most vocal personalities clash with the world's most powerful podcaster? The answer involves lawyers, $100 million, 0 cents, and a masterclass in why you should fact check before you speak. It started innocently enough. The ladies of The View perched around their infamous table discussing misinformation and media credibility. Then Joy Behar dropped what she thought was just another casual takedown. Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it, she insisted when challenged. Did you triple check it? Another host asked. Yes, I did. And he also thinks dragons like dinosaur-y type animals roamed the earth when people did. The hosts smirked. The audience chuckled. And somewhere in Austin, Texas, Joe Rogan's phone started blowing up. The segment wasn't just a quick jab, it was a full character assassination, painting Rogan as dangerously misinformed while positioning themselves as bastions of fact-check truth. That's why people like our show, one host declared, because we are checked by ABC News. The irony? This claim about Rogan believing in dragons wasn't just wrong, it was demonstrably false. And unlike random internet trolls, The View has a massive platform, corporate backing, and the appearance of legitimacy. Joe Rogan isn't just any media personality. With over 11 million listeners per episode and a $200 million 0 cent Spotify deal, his influence dwarfs most traditional media outlets combined. When The View poked this bear, they weren't just insulting some fringe figure. They were attacking one of the most powerful voices in modern media. Rogan's initial response was subtle. He simply changed his Twitter profile to Dragon Believer, letting his fans connect the dots. But behind the scenes, something much bigger was brewing. For years, Rogan had weathered criticism from traditional media with little more than on-air rebuttals. He'd laugh, address claims on his podcast, and move on. But this time was different. This wasn't about opinions or disagreements. It was about deliberate mischaracterization that could damage business relationships and his reputation. So instead of just talking about it, Rogan did something unprecedented. He assembled a legal team and filed a $100 million, 0 cents defamation lawsuit against ABC, Disney, and The View's hosts. After years of being the favorite dartboard for daytime TV's self-appointed Supreme Court of Morality, an insider revealed Joe decided he was done playing silent punching bag for the queens of caffeinated chaos. The lawsuit isn't just about dragons. It's about a pattern of statements The View has made, repeatedly characterizing Rogan as dangerous, misleading, and harmful, claims that directly impact his business relationships and credibility. The legal documents filed in federal court meticulously detail every instance where The View hosts made demonstrably false claims about Rogan's content and beliefs. They argue these weren't just harmless opinions, but malicious attempts to damage his reputation with reckless disregard for the truth. Sonny Hostin called me a horror, Rogan noted on his podcast. They accused me of intentionally spreading misinformation to millions of people. That's not opinion. That's a claim about my character and professional integrity. The lawsuit alleges that these statements weren't just offensive, they were potentially damaging to Rogan's $200 million zero-cent Spotify relationship and numerous other business ventures that rely on his credibility. What makes this case particularly fascinating is how it exposes the vulnerability of traditional media's casual approach to commentary. For decades, talk shows have operated under the assumption that opinion-based formats shield them from defamation claims. But when those opinions include specific factually incorrect assertions about a public figure's beliefs and professional conduct, that shield starts to crack. The View's initial reaction to the lawsuit speaks volumes. Silence. No snarky comebacks, no defensive monologues, just deafening quiet as ABC's legal department presumably went into full crisis mode. Behind closed doors, sources say Disney executives were blindsided by both the lawsuit and its potential financial impact. Internal meetings focused on damage control rather than fighting back, a telling sign that their legal position might be shakier than they'd like to admit. When they finally did issue a statement, it was corporate speak at its finest. We are reviewing the matter and considering our options. Translation, we're trying to figure out if we can make this go away without writing a check with a lot of zeros. The View's hosts, typically quick with retorts and rebuttals, suddenly found themselves under strict instructions from network lawyers to avoid mentioning Rogan or the lawsuit on air. The same women who freely discussed everything from presidential politics to celebrity scandals were now navigating a topic they couldn't touch. Legal experts watching the case unfold note that defamation suits from public figures face a high bar, but not an impossible one. While Rogan would need to prove actual malice, The View's confident insistence that they checked their dragon claim could actually work against them by suggesting they knew or should have known their statements were false. When you claim to be factually verified by a major news network, then make demonstrably false statements about someone's beliefs, noted one media law expert, you've created a perfect storm for a defamation case with teeth. This lawsuit isn't happening in isolation. It's the most explosive battle yet in an ongoing war between traditional media and digital internet content creators who have stolen their audience, influence, and cultural relevance. For years, shows like The View have watched their viewership age and shrink, while podcasters like Rogan build empires with younger, more engaged audiences. This hasn't just hurt their ratings, it's wounded their pride and sense of authority. They're ideologically captured, Rogan observed about The View's hosts. It's a rabies-infested henhouse. Strong words, perhaps, but reflective of the genuine animosity between these two media worlds. What makes this conflict particularly fascinating is the power reversal. 20 years ago, a daytime talk show could destroy someone's career with a few choice words. Today, those same shows find themselves punching up at digital creators with larger audiences and deeper pockets. And they thought they were scoring points with their audience, noted one media analyst. Instead, they woke up in the middle of a legal cage match with a man who literally trains in actual cage matches. The lawsuit highlights this new reality. Traditional media no longer holds exclusive power to shape narratives without consequence. When they target figures with massive platforms of their own, they risk not just rebuttal, but legal warfare on an unprecedented scale. While the legal battle unfolds behind closed doors, the public verdict is already forming, and it doesn't look good for The View. Social media exploded with reactions, memes, and hot takes, most overwhelmingly supporting Rogan. Even more telling, video clips from The View's own audience showed visible discomfort during the host's comments about Rogan, suggesting their own viewers weren't buying what they were selling. Their audience seemed to be on my side, Rogan noted with amusement. And that's their audience. The lawsuit has created unlikely alliances with free speech advocates from across the political spectrum rallying behind Rogan. not necessarily because they agree with him on everything, but because they see danger in media figures making false claims without accountability. Media commentators note that while The View has weathered countless controversies before, this one feels different. It's not just about offense or disagreement. It's about basic journalistic standards and legal liability in an era where alternate platforms can hold traditional media accountable. For too long, these shows have played fast and loose with facts, said one media ethics professor. This lawsuit forces a reckoning about the responsibility that comes with their platform. Legal experts are divided on whether this case will actually reach a courtroom. The conventional wisdom suggests Disney will move heaven and earth to prevent a trial, offering a substantial settlement that includes both financial compensation and some form of public clarification. Disney doesn't want discovery, explained one entertainment lawyer. They definitely don't want The View hosts being deposed about their fact-checking processes and editorial decisions. That's the stuff of corporate nightmares. A settlement would likely include a non-disclosure agreement, preventing Rogan from discussing the terms publicly. But even without those details, the message would be clear. The era of consequence-free commentary is over. Should the case somehow proceed to trial, it would be the media circus of the decade. The View hosts, forced to testify under oath about their research practices, internal emails and communications exposed, and the entire sausage-making process of daytime television laid bare for public consumption. Either outcome represents a seismic shift in media accountability. When Joy Behar casually mentioned dragons, she unknowingly lit the fuse on what could become a landmark case in modern media law. As this legal drama unfolds, one thing is already clear. The landscape has changed. The next time a talk show host considers making provocative claims about a public figure, they'll pause, not just for journalistic integrity, but out of self-preservation. This isn't just about Joe Rogan or The View. It's about the evolution of media power and responsibility in the digital age. It's about who gets to say what about whom and what happens when those statements collide with reality. For decades, traditional media operated with asymmetric power. They could criticize, condemn, and characterize public figures with little fear of meaningful consequence. That era is ending, not through regulation or corporate policy, but through the natural balancing of a media ecosystem where power now flows in multiple directions. Joe Rogan didn't need a network to build his platform. He didn't need approval from media gatekeepers. He built direct relationships with millions of listeners who trust him more than they trust traditional outlets. That trust translates to power. Power, The View is now discovering the hard way. As one media observer put it, in today's world, free speech still exists, but so do receipts, subpoenas, and lawyers who bill by the nanosecond. The $100 million 0 cents question remains, will this case fundamentally change how media personalities talk about each other? Will it make hosts think twice before making claims they haven't thoroughly verified? Or will it simply drive controversial comments further into the realm of carefully worded innuendo? Whatever happens next, one thing is certain. Joe Rogan isn't just fighting for his reputation. He's challenging the entire ecosystem of how media figures interact with each other. And regardless of the legal outcome, that challenge alone may change the rules of engagement forever. In the meantime, Rogan continues his podcast, now with an even larger audience curious about the man who stood up to daytime TV. And somewhere in a Manhattan studio, the hosts of The View are learning a valuable, if expensive, lesson about the new media landscape they now inhabit. One where dragons might not be real, but consequences definitely are.